All right. Hi there. I am Morgan from Titanium Performance, and I have a guest here today. Dr. Rachel is a psychologist from Better Balance Psychology, and she has been working virtually with her clients for, I don't even remember, how long have you said you've been in business?
My business is just over a year old. Yeah, but I've been in the field a lot longer than
Yeah.
that.
So, and she is specializing, she has a lot of specialties, but specifically working with like stress and anxiety, which has been super high for the last year and a half because of all of the world events that we've been experiencing. And so when her and I met, we connected just so well on so many levels in our niche businesses. And so I thought it would be great to have her on. And so thank you so much for doing this interview and talking more. And I'm so excited to hear from you.
Yeah, thank you so much for asking if I'd be interested in doing something like this. I love doing things like this. I love talking about, well, one, just normalizing that a lot of people are stressed. And I'm not saying that so that like, oh, so then don't worry about it. A lot of people are stressed. But it's like a lot of people are struggling right now. And that doesn't mean that if you're struggling, you're broken, you're weak, you're anything like that. Like there's I mean, even on a good day, even pre-pandemic, right? Like there's a lot of stressful things that we're bombarded with and can catch us off guard. That's why I really love specializing in stress and anxiety management. And obviously everything in the past 18 months has unfortunately really increased that trifold with civil unrest, with the pandemic, everything like that. So it's just really important. So thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you so much. So we'll just jump right in. And, in the last year and a half, I've had a lot of clients who've come to me and our gym talking about how, like, they just need something for themselves and they've just been, surviving basically, and they need some form of self care. Can you talk a little bit on how you consult clients on, self care and what that looks like in all aspects? Because we just see the physical side. So
Definitely, which is a big part of it, right?
right.
Um, but okay, so a couple things come to mind when you say that. So, when surviving versus like I'm gonna say thriving, which is kind of where I take us out of that survival mode and into well-being. It has been challenging to say the least. So let's just be honest. Recently, over the past year and a half, but even sometimes pre-pandemic, to get out of survival mode. And that's actually a very helpful and adaptive spot to be. I don't think people necessarily give it a lot of credit. Our bodies and our brains are really smart that at some point, if we're being bombarded with like work and family and I don't know, finances and whatever, it's like, whoa, we only have so much we can give at a certain time. That's energy, that's time, that's all of those constraints that our bodies and our brains are going to look at all these stressors coming at us and be like, pick one of those things, and really it's going to take you, I'm going to get kind of, I don't know, not sci-fi, physiological here. Like it's going to take you out of your prefrontal cortex, which is your highest functioning part and what we have as human beings, and take you back into your reptilian or otherwise known as mammalian brain. It's going to be like, all right, are we breathing? Is our heart pumping like blood through our system? We're good. Like this is good. We are alive, right?
Mhm.
Now, as
Right.
humans, that's really not a comfortable spot to be in long term. And that's where a lot of people start like, I'm just doing my day to day. They might be really irritable, they might be really tearful, or they might even be just numb. Again, all
Mhm.
protective factors, which are really, really helpful, but not in the long term and not really how people want to be spending their time here on earth. So I want to give credit there where credit's due, that is trying to help you and protect you. But if you have the capacity, again, whether that's time, energy, space, financial means, to give back to yourself, now we're talking in that self care, which I'm a huge advocate for all the time, understanding that we may not always have capacity for it. But if you don't make the time, you're going to get back thrown into that survival mode, right? So it's kind of like this catch-22. Like you need to have enough resources, but even if you're kind of like, well, I could work out, yes, work out, because otherwise you're going to get kicked back into survival mode. So this is my very Dr. Rachel individualized perspective on self-care. You take it or leave it. It's an opinion, not research-based. I believe that self-care is anything with the intent of it being self-care. So some people will say that self-care is an activity, like these specific activities, pick one, right? I disagree with that. And I'll use a quick example that like a shower in the morning could be somebody's self-care activity. Now it's not for me because I'm usually running late and I'm like, okay, done. But if somebody goes in with the intent of this is my 5 minutes, I'm going to be really mindful and feel the steam and feel the water and hear the water. I'm going to smell the soaps and all the other things. So I'm pulling in all the senses. That is a self-care activity, hands down. Right? So just like somebody is going to love crocheting, somebody's going to love marathons, somebody's going to love taking their dog to the park. Personally, I don't think that a self-care activity is a specific type of activity. It is the intent of that activity, which is where I would challenge your clients and I challenge mine that even in your survival mode, is there room to bring that intention of trying to give back to yourself? So in survival mode, we need to eat, right?
Right.
Is there a way we could bring some intentionality of I'm doing this to nourish my body, to take care of, there's a lot of colors on my plate, there's textures, there's smells. That very well might actually give you some of that self-care that you're looking for, that we can then build some momentum off of to get into some more sustainable and additional self-care activities.
Yeah. The intention behind what you're doing is so powerful. Like that,
Definitely.
taking it back and putting the focus on you and what's right for you. Cause I know there's a lot of like, you should do this, you should do this. And, we see it all the time
All
in
the time.
the exercise world too, of like, oh no, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing this. And yes, there is science and research behind benefits of different things, but again, it's not, that doesn't work for everyone. And so I think something else that we talked about too is like setting boundaries, and how do you help people with like taking that you should, or even I know this is helpful, but from other people, and maybe even for yourself, like putting those activities in place, and also, having accountability maybe with other people, but also not doing things to people please others.
Oh my gosh, yes, please.
Like, can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's kind of the next thing we see is like, oh, I should do this, so I'm here kind of thing, versus I want to be doing this and I feel good when I do it.
Absolutely. And that's kind of what you're saying, that intentionality of it is different. If we are doing anything that we should, we'll probably be able to do that for a bit, but we're gonna burn out on that. Because we either get cranky about it or resentful about it, or our bodies just are like, I don't wanna, and then we get mad at ourselves for, it's like, no, but you should, come on, let's go. It's like, I don't think anyway, okay, that's a whole different topic. One suggestion that I have for both like in my therapy clients, but also probably for your clients in personal training, the second we say the word should, that's not how we feel then. And B, that puts a lot of pressure on ourselves. So then if we don't do that thing, then we feel even worse. So what I offer as an alternative is take out all the times you say should, which will take a bit because I think we do this a lot, myself included.
Yep.
But when you notice yourself saying I should do or feel or think X, replace the word with could. Because then that gives you just enough wiggle room and enough permission that if you don't feel or think or do things, that you won't be like, oh, Rachel, you suck. Like, you're just the worst. Like, you didn't get up and work out this morning, or you don't feel sad about blah, blah, blah. I didn't say I had to. I said I could feel that way.
Right.
And so that just gives us that permission, I think, that is unique in your business, Morgan, and mine, that we're really trying to give people the time and the space to be present, to be human, to have their thoughts and their feelings, or the bad night's sleep, and like all of that. So don't should on yourself is
Yeah.
really the try
Yeah.
not to, at least.
Right. Well, and you get all of these like, these pressures, and I think self-care has kind of become like one of those words too in the last year and a half,
For
because
sure.
everyone's like, oh my gosh, you have to self-care because this world is like so stressful. And even that, to people who are like, I don't know what that means, or maybe it's changed. I think I've seen a lot of people too who have their world just completely changed, and what their work life looks like, what their home life
Absolutely.
looks like. And so I guess what self-care worked for someone, you talked about self-care looking different for different people, but also maybe you can talk a little bit more too on self-care evolving for you, because it doesn't always maybe you used to have time to go to the gym for an hour after work, but now you have a baby and you work from home and your babysitter's at home, or like different. So maybe you can talk a little bit about like things evolving personally on like a personal level too, for like as far as self-care and just that part of it.
I think that absolutely. Thank you for that. I think that is actually what gets really hard for people to kind of think about what self-care is. So not only is it different from person to person, but for me, it can look different day to day, even hour by
Yeah.
hour sometimes. So it feels like it's this constantly kind of moving target, which can then be really hard to define. And then therefore, going back to your first question, I think hard to hold boundaries around.
Yeah.
But let's first start with like self-care absolutely will change and evolve. I mean, just like we need to adapt to any sort of circumstances, and things have a time and a place, just because something worked for you last year as feeling fulfilling, and you felt strong and motivated, however you've rested after the fact. And now if it's like you're putting that puzzle piece in, but it's a whole new puzzle,
Yeah.
right? And it's
That's
jammed,
such a
like,
good way
why
to
is
say
this
it.
not
Yeah.
working? Like, well, the puzzle changed,
Right.
right? So let's find a new puzzle piece. And again, that's no criticism of that person. That's this adapting to the circumstances. So let's take that and run with it. Again, I think that's where the self-care of the intention behind it. It doesn't matter what the activity is. Again, my opinion, it's what works for you. I don't care what your spouse does. I don't care what your neighbor does. I don't care what a teacher does. That's great. That's what
Right.
works for them. That doesn't mean it will work for you. And that's fine.
Right. Yeah.
So,
And
oh, go ahead. I was just
I
gonna,
was just gonna say, that's what makes us like so compatible, is like you're helping people just at stop, evaluate, where am I now? What do I need right now? And we really take that down to just strength training and exercise, but you do that in so many aspects for people.
I mean, yes and no. I guess I think it's just, it's related. What am overlapping. There we go.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think one is better or worse than, I just think they just work well together. Anyway, oh, I'm tripping on my words here, but I was gonna say too, to take that to the boundaries then, and the people pleasing you alluded to. I talk about that a lot in my practice. And so not only are we shooting on ourselves, but we're trying to put others' needs before our own. So
Yeah.
self-care is not selfish. And just because your self-care activity changed or was modified, or you couldn't do it this way today, so you're going to do it this way, that does not mean that you have to then accommodate, oh, well, I'll do that at 9 p.m. tonight, unless you want to, because like I had to do all of these other things first. No,
Right.
you have to do what you have to do for you. So like the metaphor kind of is like you're this water pitcher and everybody, whether that's kids, boss, spouse, I don't know, name everything else, traffic, finances, they all are holding out cups. If you don't put back into your water pitcher, you're going to have nothing left to pour into these cups that are
Yeah.
constantly seeking you to fill
Right.
them up. So you
Right.
need to hold those boundaries on, I'm doing this for me. I need this for me so that I can then keep giving to someone else. Again, those boundaries are going to be, and boundaries might be a different topic. Let's talk about more
Yeah.
later. But those boundaries are just as important around the self-care activity, even though the self-care activity itself has changed.
Yeah. Well, that I love that, you got to fill up your own water pitcher before you pour into other people. I'm probably going to borrow that from you
Oh,
sometime.
steal it. It's not mine. So go for it.
But yeah, thank you so much for sharing your passion and just how you give to other people and helping them in your practice. And we'll link to your website so people can contact you if they want to reach out, or they can find you at on your website, Better Balance Psychology. And yeah, thank you so much for coming on and talking with me today.
I loved it. I seriously could keep going, but I know I don't want to get this video to be like 3 hours long. So,
Yeah.
but excuse me, I hope that was helpful for some of your clients. Stress is really high. Again, that's not saying that you should then be fine, but just it's okay to feel stressed. Get some support, be kind in how you speak to yourself, and navigate that self-care the best you can, because it is a moving target. So
It
thank
really
you,
is.
Morgan.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great day.
Hey, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.